Hey guys, well, it is day one of our class, and so wanted to shoot this video for you. This is our review day. We're going to review algebra, trig, pre-calculus, and geometry. Um, but I would actually like to begin with a calculus preview. So there's a little bit more to this that I'll post later. I just want to can just kind of give you a feel just for the standards of the course and just the level of difficulty. If you've never taken calculus before, it can be pretty shocking. Um, in my experience, I've taken a lot of math classes. Okay. The biggest leap in math is going from pre-calculus or trig or college algebra, whatever your last math class was, going from that to Calc 1. That is the biggest leap in the standards and in the difficulty that you will ever see between any two math courses. Trust me, I've been teaching this class a long time and I've taken a lot of math classes myself. So we're going to start with a preview. Um, Kind of another reason why, let me just briefly tell you my own story with taking calculus before we get to that. So, uh, I the first time I took calculus, I was actually in high school, and I came in and I did well, in the previous algebra class and geometry, and I was a decent math student. So I get to calculus in high school, and it absolutely just blew me away. My teacher, I only took the first semester of it um, in high school, and my teacher gave me a D. She should have given me an F. I mean, I think she just thought I was trying really hard, so she was just being nice. I wasn't trying nearly as hard as she thought. Especially after like the first month, I had almost like just given up. This was so difficult. So I failed it the first time I took calculus miserably. I mean, I was getting in the teens percentage wise on tests. I was getting tests like 13% correct. I mean, it was awful. And I had done well in all my previous math classes, seriously. So what they did, I went back and I took trig in the second half of that year. And in the following year, I took calculus again. And when I took calculus again for the second time, now I passed the class, and I did all right. I think I got an A in the first semester and a B in the second semester. That of high school, that doesn't really matter. Truth is, although I did fine and I could do the problems now, I really didn't know what I was doing. So I could go through the steps, but I still didn't have the connection of really what was happening with the calculus and the concepts. So then I went to community college. I actually did 3 years in community college myself, not in San Diego, but back where my high school is, in Lancaster, California, Southern California. So I went to community college. In my first year of community college, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to study, and so I did not take calculus. I could have gotten into calculus. Obviously, I'd done it in high school, but I decided not to. I didn't want to overwhelm myself, so I took college algebra the first semester, and I took trig the second semester. Basically, I took pre-calc my first year of community college. And so then the second year came around, and I was like, okay, let's take calculus. And I had determined that I wanted to do, something in the sciences or with math, maybe physics. Anyway, so I take calculus again the following year. This is the third time I've taken calculus now, Calc 1. And I did very well. And I knew what I was doing and why I was doing it. And all of a sudden, I was getting near perfect scores on tests because I was just so familiar. So, what I want to do for you guys, really for everybody, but especially if this is your first time seeing any calculus, I want to just give you a preview of just what the difficulty level is like. And again, on a later video, I'm going to go into more of the details of what calculus is. But I just want to like really be totally open and honest and transparent, just what is going to be expected. So this is, I'm going to switch the camera around. This is looking at a sheet of paper here on my desk. And so I'm just going to draw this out for you guys. So imagine that this is like a high jump bar. This is ground level, okay? So when we're little, they ask us to jump over something maybe about this high. So when this is like elementary school, first, second, third, fourth grade, we learn arithmetic, okay? Just how to add and subtract, multiply, divide, fractions, decimals, that's all part of it. Okay, we get a little bit older, and maybe we go into junior high or so, and now we get introduced to algebra. We spend so much time on arithmetic, years and years, to really lay that foundation super, super strong. Then we get, like I said, like, junior high age or so, and they introduce variables, and we're like blown away by this massive change in how we approach math. But after some time, we start to wrap our head around that. Okay, so some more years pass, and for a lot of us, maybe it was in high school or at some point later on, we learned pre-calc. Okay, so I'll kind of include pre-calc, so that will include like geometry, trig, and then, higher levels of algebra, okay? More advanced algebra. We're like, okay, and each time, the leap feels pretty big, but as we go further, maybe the leap here doesn't seem nearly as big as that arithmetic to algebra leap. But, our minds are maturing and growing and stuff. Okay, so then we think, all right, it's time to take calculus. That's the next step. And it seems to us like, all right, it's going to be more difficult than pre-calc, but this is kind of the progression that we're used to. So you might think calculus will be about here. No, no way. Calculus is probably up here. All right, we'll call it Calculus 1 since we usually have 3 calculus courses. Okay, so there's Calc 1. This massive, massive gap. Now, the thing is, though, once you pass Calc 1, and a lot of you guys probably going to need to take Calc 2, it's back to that same progression. Okay, and then Calc 3 and so on would go from there. So why this huge disparity between pre-calc, geometry, and trig to Calc 1? What is causing that? Well, over the years, I've really seen it's 2 things that cause this huge leap. So the first, it's difficult algebra. Okay, so calculus, we're going to assume that 100% of what was going on back here at any given time. Now, that's probably not a surprise, but there's more. Not only do we assume you know all of your pre-calc and geometry and trig at the drop of a hat, but a lot of it, especially the algebra portion, it's going to be situations that you didn't necessarily find yourself in, at least not very often back in those algebra classes. And so the type of algebra and its very specific circumstances that we want to address, we want to really hone some of those skills. And it's technically nothing new. It is algebra. It's not any new concept. Solving an equation of a certain type, simplifying something of a certain type. It's just not situations we found ourselves in very much. And so that's what we're going to tackle in the first handout that you're going to see on Canvas day 1 is the calculus preview. Okay, and I'll shoot another video here doing an example problem to help get you guys started. You'll see that after this one. Okay, so difficult algebra. Okay, what else? There's another thing. Calculus is concept intensive. It's it it builds heavily on concepts. If you're not familiar with the concept and why you're doing what you're doing, then calculus is going to be, I'll be honest, it's just going to blow you away. Okay, so I just remember my own journey. So the first time I was just blown away by the algebra and the concepts. The second time I took it, now I could handle the algebra and I could do things, but I really didn't feel comfortable why I was doing what I was doing, um, to a certain degree. Now, then when I took it the third time, now I really felt so strong in both those areas. Okay. A big part of calculus is if you don't understand the concept, then you've got nowhere to hide. A lot of times back in trig or geometry or pre-calc or whatever, you could understand, you could just kind of memorize a procedure and that got you by, or a formula, and you just put things into a formula and that got you by. And you could pass a class. Maybe not get an A necessarily, but you could definitely pass a class. Maybe get an A. I don't know what your teacher or your other class were like. And you really didn't have to know what you were doing and why you're doing it. That is not the case in calculus. There is no little shadow you can tuck behind and not be found. It everything is exposed. You are doing these problems in the light, and it's very, 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 very clear if you don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it when I see your tests or your quizzes or whatever. So very concept intensive. Now that doesn't mean okay, just focus on concepts. It means there's practice, there's trial and error. It doesn't mean don't make mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes. That's how you learn. Make the mistakes in the homework, bring them to our Zoom office time. Let's talk about them, and you'll get a grapple of this over time. It's not something, hey, just pay attention to concepts. It doesn't work that way. Okay. It takes trial and error, and we grow by learning from our mistakes. Okay, so this is the first video I wanted to shoot here, just on getting you guys introduced. Okay, another one is coming. I try to keep my videos under 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes if I can. So I'm going to stop this one here, but we'll pick it up in the next one with an example problem to get you guys started on the calculus preview.